90.3 WHPC now presents Law You Should Know. The law affects every aspect of our lives, our home, our jobs, and our recreational activities. Now, learn about the law and how to protect yourself against the loss of your liberty or property, and learn how to stand up for your rights and seek compensation when you have been wronged. Your host for Law You Should Know is attorney Kenneth J. Landau, a past dean of the Nassau Academy of Law, and frequently lectures to lawyers on ethics and avoiding problems with clients, and to the public on how to choose and use lawyers. This is Law You Should Know on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hi, this is Ken Landau, and welcome to Law You Should Know. Our guest today is Edie Reinhardt, and she's an attorney turned marketer, and she's going to give attorneys and other professionals many tips on how they can gear up and take steps to market themselves. Edie, welcome back to Law You Should Know.
Thank you, Ken.
I do want to mention you have over 20 years of experience in marketing, and now you concentrate on that, and you help attorneys and others showcase their expertise, attract clients, and work out their social media and websites. What is important for attorneys and others as they think about building or expanding their practice? What's some of the initial things they have to consider?
I think a big one is to really be thinking not just on how your business is doing today, but how you perceive it's going for the future. Because what happens is that, lawyers will be satisfied with their business today, and they'll be, I don't really need to do much marketing. But the thing is where do you want to be in a year or 3 years or 5 years? Are you on track for that? If you're worried that you may not be, then certainly you need to be marketing now, because if you wait until the business is going badly, then you're going to be trying to catch up under different, really difficult circumstances. On the other hand, if you think you're doing really great, then you also have to be thinking about what are your competitors doing? Are you aware of that? Because if they're doing marketing and you're not, then are you going to be able to keep up down the road?
And just as the seasons come and go, fields of law and even your clients may come and go. So you have to have some on deck and get the word out there so you have new clients who can replace your former clients.
Correct. Every business has natural attrition, so it's not that you're doing anything wrong, but you're going to lose clients. Or you may have a transactional business where, your clients you have to constantly be bringing in new ones. And
sometimes, certain areas are hot and sometimes they're not. And so your practice can vary, and you just want to make sure you have new clients coming in the door with types of matters that you can handle.
Correct.
What are some ways to see what your competitors are up to, or what are some initial steps to take? I know one thing you suggest is Googling yourself and see what happens.
Correct. I think everybody, no matter what field you're in, you should be Googling yourself regularly to see what comes up. The thing is that even if you're getting a referral from somebody else, that person's probably going to check you out online, and they're probably checking out more than one attorney. So what are they going to see when they search your name? You want to know, and look at it objectively. Are you impressed by your own online presence? You also want to be Googling some of your competitors, people that you think are successful, and see how do you compare to them.
And when you Google yourself, other firms are bound to come up because that's the way Google is.
Correct.
And you might want to see how they describe themselves. Maybe it's better, maybe it's worse, maybe it's truthful, maybe it's not. But you want to make sure that you're going to say something that will get the attention of someone who may need your services.
Correct. The kinds of things that you want to have show up are, first off, a website, and your website should be modern looking and informative. You should have lots of good reviews. You want to make sure that, let's say you're writing articles and you're doing presentations, or you're involved in activities that reflect positively on you, like you're involved in relevant organizations and things like that, and that you're active on social media. Because, a strong online presence isn't going to guarantee you get the business, but a poor one could lose you the business because your competitors look better than you.
And if it's busy or it's sloppy or it's slow, which could be because of too much information, it's going to be a deterrent rather than a magnet for business.
Correct. You want to make sure you're always putting yourself out there in the best possible light.
And should you become a resource and reference for other helpful information, perhaps related agencies or other publications so that people can go to you and they can hit a link and they'll be delivered to the right place?
Certainly. I mean, your website should have lots of informative content because people want to see that you know what you're talking about. It's proof that you know what you're talking about as opposed to saying how great you are. And so things like a blog, having articles and presentations, putting video on your website, all those kinds of things are really, they build credibility and they, show people that you are the knowledgeable person that they want for their case.
And it can even be generic helpful information, such as a glossary of legal terms that you may be using,
yes.
that a timeline of how a matter is handled,
absolutely,
various deadlines that may be relevant.
I always
to that
say,
area of law.
A frequently asked questions section is fantastic for a website. I mean, you know what they are as a lawyer because those are the ones that are coming to, those are the ones you're getting all the time. And having a page for those where you write down a simple answer so that people can go there and get that information.
What are some don'ts that it's not the best idea to do?
On your website?
On your website.
I mean, I think that you want to cater to different people, that different information levels. So, for example, sometimes you want that quick answer. So having, let's say, a 30-second video, as an answer can be great. But then somebody that maybe wants more information, you give them an opportunity to read more about it. Also, you could do things like ebooks, which are great. You can do, and an ebook it's not really a book. It could be 6 pages long, and it's just something where it gives somebody more information. So you kind of lead them along the path. So if somebody just wants a quick, short little answer, you have it for them. But then if they want more detail, you also provide that for them.
And in terms of videos, what are some do's and don'ts with those videos that they may have on their website?
If a video is going to be on your website, then you should hire a professional to do it. If you're going to do a video for social media, it's okay for you to do it yourself. You take your phone or maybe you have somebody in your office video you talking about something. That's fine. But if it's going to be sitting on your website so it's there permanently, you should hire a professional who's going to make sure that the lighting, the sound quality, all of that is done. It's edited and it's professional looking.
And should you star in your own video that they're making for you?
You can, definitely, because, people want to know the person that they're going to work with. So video enables you to connect with people in a way that you can't in a written form of something that you're handing out, your content.
And are the rules the same? Keep it short and sweet, make it understandable, perhaps have subtitles there or have it in a different language?
Yes, Captioning is a must. And actually, it's so easy these days. A lot of software systems add it automatically, and then you just have to check it to make sure that it's accurate. But you definitely want captioning because also, too, a lot of times people are looking at video in a public environment and they don't want the sound on, so they're reading the captions.
And if they miss a word, it may not make sense to them.
Correct. Yes. So those are definitely musts for your video.
And what are some other ways that an attorney or another professional or even a small business can market themselves and lead to more referrals?
So lawyers tend to think of getting referrals as all about networking. And networking is invaluable. And, it's definitely a must, but there's only so many hours in a day. And so you need to be doing other things. And that's why, marketing is really helpful because it creates those other touch points with your contacts. So when an opportunity arises, they're going to remember you and refer you the business. So, good marketing doesn't replace your networking. It supplements and reinforces it.
And some of the items we were talking about earlier are dealing with your potential or existing clients. Is it important to, keep those clients informed, your existing clients or past clients, about how you can be of help to them? The world's changing. Maybe they're going to sell their property. Maybe they're worried about updating their will. Maybe they're worried about some tax legislation. So it's important to let them know how else you can be of help to them, especially since you have credibility with them?
Absolutely. And I think email is a fantastic way to do that. It's very inexpensive. You can send out a simple email once a month that is helpful to people. So it's not a sales pitch. It's about giving them some educational information. Maybe you answered a frequently asked question. Maybe if you are blogging, you include, some articles that you've done. And, the point is that you want to remind people who you are and what you do.
And I like to say how you can be of help to them and be a problem solver for them.
Absolutely. And so, email is, like I said, a very good way to do that. Now, ideally, they open all your emails that you send them and they read it and, they're happy and everything. But, the reality is that you're going to have a substantial number that aren't going to open it because that's just the reality of life, that we all have lots of emails. But it's still valuable. I tend to compare it to like going to a big networking event. You walk into the room and you see a lot of familiar faces. You don't have a chance to talk to everybody, but you saw them. And so that now puts them top of mind. So seeing your name pop up in their inbox is still valuable even if they don't open it. But hopefully, you'll get as many people as possible to open that email.
And in a moment, I just want you to ask them how you can get them to, if there are ways to get them to actually look at that email as opposed to the other 10,000 they've gotten that day. I just want to remind the listeners, we're talking with Edie Reinhardt. She's the principal of RDT Content Marketing. She's a former practicing attorney, but she turned herself into a marketer and writer for lawyers and other professional firms and other small businesses. And as you've heard, she helps them to showcase their expertise, become more visible, and attract more clients, including with social media and websites. And you're listening to Law You Should Know here on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College in Garden City, New York. So what are some ways to get them to look at that email? Could you say deadline soon, tax savings you may be able to do, or?
I think an email subject line does matter. You want to make it interesting. You're lawyers, so we're not selling, clothes or, so there's no sales or things like that. But, you want to have something that's of interest to your clients or your prospects or whoever you're sending it to. So be mindful of that and making it something that someone would want to click on.
But also maybe it's about avoiding these real estate headaches or avoiding
yes, definitely things that are
avoiding problems with your will. Something that might trigger them to look at it.
Correct. Yeah. So things like tips, do's and don'ts, avoiding problems. Those are all good things, all good headlines that you can use. But even sometimes, I've had clients that do nothing more than say, July newsletter. But what people learn is that, okay, that person has valuable information to share. So, you want to make sure that it's not just about your subject line, that you're actually following through on whatever it is that you're promising, and you're delivering good content in the substance of your email.
And in that newsletter, you invite them to share it and forward it to friends and family.
You certainly can do that, yes. That's easy enough. You can forward it on, and you should definitely have on your website a place for people to sign up for your newsletter. So if somebody comes to your site and they, find things of interest, then they should just easily be able to sign up for it.
And do you want to try to cooperate with other type of businesses or organizations to have mention made or a link for your newsletter on their websites?
Sometimes you can do that. We're all sensitive about, doing too much promotional stuff. But if, let's say, a lot of clients I have will do, let's say, have a contact that will share a blog post on their site. So it's a guest blog post. And then they reciprocate. So that's a really great way where you're both getting a benefit from it, and it's an incentive for both of you to share it. So you sort of double your marketing reach by doing things like that.
And this may be valuable, helpful information that you've given, and you want people to be free to pass it on.
Definitely.
Why don't we take a moment out and just, Edie, tell us where the address for your website and what information is there that attorneys or other professionals or small businesses may find helpful.
Sure. My website is rdtcontentmarketing.com. And I have lots of resources on my site. I have a blog that is updated at least monthly and goes back years. And I have tons of articles on the site as well. So there's plenty of educational information for attorneys and other professionals to learn what are the things that they should be doing.
And it's valuable information for them.
Yes, and I do have a newsletter, and you can sign up on my website for that newsletter.
And what are some other inexpensive ways? I know you help attorneys and other professionals with this, but what are some other ways they can try to market themselves to get more referrals?
So in addition to the email newsletter, social media. You really should be leveraging social media because it's a great way to stay in touch with your contacts. You can see what they're doing and they can see what you're doing. And every time you share something, it's reminding them again of who you are and what you do. Social media is also a great way to highlight your expertise and also, give a little bit of your personality because people want to work with others that they like and trust. So you want to make yourself more likable, and social media is a great place to do that.
And social media, we're talking about LinkedIn?
Definitely. So LinkedIn is the primary avenue for lawyers. Obviously there's other platforms. So second place would be Facebook. As for the other ones, it really depends on what kind of practice you have. But I also say, don't even think about other platforms until you've gotten LinkedIn right. And then you go on to Facebook, get Facebook in a good shape, and then you can move on to other platforms.
And lawyers and likable may be contradictory terms. So how can a lawyer come across as more likable on LinkedIn? What can they do?
Well, video is a great way to do that because, again, you're talking to someone. They get to see you. They see your expressions. So that's a great way to do it. Sharing your activities that kind of just show you as a human being. So a lot of people share things like, they were involved in a charitable activity or a community activity. So those are great ways to humanize you. And sometimes even just talking about some personal tidbits. You want to be mindful, especially on LinkedIn, because it is a business platform that you're not oversharing, TMI, too much information.
And you may not want to share about how much you made, your mansions and your
Correct.
boats and stuff, but something they can relate to.
Correct.
And you might have in common with them.
Yeah, it may be cultural things. I've seen people that share some of their holiday celebrations. They talk about, the family and how much it means to them. So things like that you can add that just gives you a little bit more personality and makes you more likable.
And more well-rounded.
And yes, definitely more well-rounded.
What are some other ways? I know you help them go from to do a few things, to do more things, to get themselves to be the best at their game. So what are some other more advanced things that they can do or you can help them with?
Well, one of the biggest things is to create content. And there's lots of avenues for that. So I recommend starting with a blog because it's in your control. You decide what you're going to write about, how you're going to write about it, when you're going to write about it. And, so it's something that's an easy place to start. But it also really highlights your expertise and builds credibility. And it also helps your search engine ranking. So if people are looking for an attorney online, the more high-quality content you have on your site, the higher you're going to show up in those search results.
And if someone just wants to ask you a quick question, maybe it's something that's on their mind, and whether it's in person or maybe through an email or on the website, if it's something you can give a reasonably short and simple answer to, should you just do it rather than saying they have to come into your office and spend hundreds of dollars on a consultation?
Are you talking about for an attorney?
Yes, let's start with attorneys or even an accountant.
Right. Obviously you want to be mindful of, creating that attorney-client
well, you're presenting it for information only.
Right.
Some people get tired of people taking advantage and asking them a lot of free questions. But if you can answer it in 2 minutes and maybe offer them the opportunity of consultation to explore their individual circumstances or in greater detail. It's better to give a free advice. Is that good marketing?
So that's a tough one, because again, is someone really just going to ask you that quick question, can quickly escalate. I've had clients who have said, okay, well, you get the free 15 minutes. Beyond that, though, it's going to be a paid type of situation. And, people respond to free. I'm not going to say otherwise, but you also have to be careful and monitor that kind of thing because what happens sometimes is that all you get is the people that want free advice. And, they're not good quality leads. They're not anything that converts. So you have to pay attention if you're going to, let's say, do that kind of an offer. Track your results. How many of those people actually came in for a real consultation and became a paying client?
And also sometimes in a particular field of law or a particular other professional situation, it's customary, let's say in personal injury, to give that free consultation. Perhaps in immigration, perhaps in bankruptcy.
Correct.
There's a short free consultation.
Yes. So, certainly you have to be mindful of what your competitors are doing. If everybody's doing a free consult and you're not, then that's going to make it very hard for you to compete.
What other ways are there to, try to get other people in the door, maybe is it marketing through other professionals important who may know a lot of people who may potentially need your services?
Definitely. I mean, lawyers get most of their business in a lot of, I would say most lawyers will say that they get most of their business through referrals. And so you want to be always developing those relationships. And as I said before, networking is fantastic and it's great to be back in person again, after COVID, but you can't, there's only so many hours in the day. You've got to be doing other things. And so I emphasize, like I said, an email marketing, social media, and doing content. And content, I said, blogging is certainly an easy first step, but you want to kind of keep going with that, starting to do things like articles and presentations. And what's great these days is that there's so many more opportunities than existed in the past. There was a time when if you wanted to get published, you had a few choices. And if you couldn't get your foot in the door, then that was it. Now you can do, let's say, that guest blog for one of your contacts. Or you can, your organization might do a little email newsletter themselves, and maybe you can give them something for that. And then work up to the more well-known publications. As a presentation, you can do a Zoom webinar. It costs you almost no money. You can even put on your own in-person event and market it through email and social media and stuff. And then, that's a great opportunity. And I'd recommend actually partnering with one of your contacts because, again, you double your reach and it makes it that much easier because you've got another person that's going to be working with you on it.
So it's good to collaborate with other professionals, with other community organizations, with other advocacy groups because you can give valuable information to them and they'll show you as a trusted person in that community. Correct.
So, again, bar associations are fantastic about that kind of thing. They're always looking for speakers. They're looking for writers. And, they take on a leadership role or join a committee, and whether it's a charitable one or just a committee for substantive issues. And it's a great opportunity to build credibility, network, and then also build those relationships.
And in old-fashioned networking, if you volunteer for some community group or some project that you're interested in, it's another way of showcasing your expertise and your willingness to help.
Right.
I just want to remind our listeners, we're talking with Edie Reinhardt, and she's the head of RDD content marketing, and she's also been involved in the marketing community. She's a member of the Legal Marketing Association, the Social Media Association, and Public Relations Professionals of Long Island, and also the Nassau County Bar Association, and she's given many presentations and written many articles for those groups, and she also received the Long Island Business News Excellence in Communications Award. What are some things that, let's say, attorneys and other professionals should not do?
Well, you want to be mindful that everything online lasts forever. Even if you think you've deleted it, it really doesn't. So be always mindful of any kind of negative information about you. One reason to be Googling yourself is to see whether there's negative information out there on you. Checking those review sites to see if people have made comments about you. And then if they have, trying to address them, so that you do resolve those. You don't want to ignore these, but you also, again, don't want to engage in any public battles that are going to not only raise ethical issues, but just overall look really bad for you. So you want to always be mindful that don't say anything online that you wouldn't want published on the front page of the New York Times. Basically, that's the rule.
And sometimes with a negative comment, I've seen some attorneys or others just invite them to contact us. Right. We'll try our best to work it out with you or them.
Correct.
And that, that might help reduce the inflammatory nature of it.
Correct.
And I just want to remind our listeners that you're listening to Law You Should Know here on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College in Garden City, New York. This is also a podcast. If you missed any part of it or you want to tell someone else about it, just go to nccradio.org. Edie, just give us your website again.
rdtcontentmarketing.com.
And what else can attorneys or other professionals do as part of a marketing plan, to try to get to the next level? It's important to go out and speak to groups again, to participate in a panel now that we're emerging from COVID. It could also be over Zoom, but you can partner with other experts that perhaps you work with to showcase you and them and how you help people.
Absolutely. As I said, it's so easy these days. You can put together a Zoom webinar. You send out invitations through email. You can promote it on LinkedIn and Facebook. They have ways you can set up an event and promote it and, have people signing up. So those are all good things to do. For
and sometimes organizations are doing, seminars. It could be on Zoom or others, but sometimes
Correct.
It looks better if you're part of their panel. It looks like you were selected, for their panel.
Yes. Yeah. And, that it's part of the broader sense of publicity. So if your article is published in a publication, a real publication, as opposed to your own, or you're presenting for an organization, you have that extra, stamp of credibility from that organization. So that's part of the broader sense of publicity.
And you can recycle it. You can say this article was published, may be of interest to you or the members of your organization or your professional group.
Correctly. I am actually a huge fan of repurposing content. Pretty much everything you create should be repurposed at least 3 or 4 or 5 other ways. And that's actually pretty easy to do. You don't even realize it, but you can take that article, you can slice it up into small blog posts or create a video version, or create a longer version or a presentation or whatever. There's all different things you can do with it. You share it on social media, you put it in your email newsletter. And so you get that much more marketing value, which is actually, I think, a very big missed opportunities with a lot of lawyers. They will write an occasional article or do an occasional presentation, but they treat it as a one-off. And it's, you could be doing all sorts of marketing activities leading up to that publication or presentation, and then a whole bunch of other things after it that you could be doing to, again, keep yourself top of mind with your contacts.
And if people cannot come up with enough ideas after, the many different opportunities you mentioned, they can always contact you and you'll help them along the way.
Absolutely.
Just give us your website one more time. And again, you have lots of useful information for attorneys and others there.
Definitely. So it's rdtcontentmarketing.com.
And any final tip that you can offer lawyers and others who may want to jumpstart their marketing program?
So I think a really important point is that you should have a marketing plan. I think a lot of lawyers engage in random acts of marketing where they're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. There's no real strategy behind it. They're not really looking at the ways that they can improve. What you want to do is actually, in a written document, detail who are you trying to target. Be very specific. What are your goals? What steps are you going to take, and what resources are you going to need?
And let them know how you can be of help to them or someone they know.
Absolutely. So I can help them with, putting together that strategic marketing plan and taking all those other steps.
Okay. I do want to thank E.D. Reinhardt for being our guest on Law You Should Know. As you heard, the podcast is available on nccradio.org. And please join us next week at the same time on Law You Should Know here on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College.